Good morning, or afternoon, or evening. Welcome back to, once again, another recording.
Wrestling fans, the Drama King is here to introduce you to the newest, greatest form of entertainment. That's right, because the following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at amazingly entertaining, I want to welcome to the ring the greatest, most technically sound podcast on the face of the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Wrestling with Wi-Fi. Tuning in right now.
Okay, once again, that will never get old, I don't think. And if it does, I'll just have to call him up and do another cameo. But anyways, so I feel funny in the sense that I'm recording for the second time this week. And the recording that I did on Wednesday, not that this means anything to anybody, I'll probably wind up jumping that with this. And the reason for that is simply, I know, friends and colleagues talk about WLPC in February as being like sort of geek summer camp or geek spring break because of the time of the year. To me, yesterday felt a bit like geek Christmas season. And the thing that I can make it like in my head is I remember as a kid, and I'm hoping many of you listening probably do too. Now I know kids of this generation don't really get that, but I remember as a kid waiting and anticipating the time when like the Sears wish list catalog would come home. You'd get in the mail and it was all the toys that you thought you were going to look at and ask for Christmas. Because, shocking for those younger ones, the internet didn't exist. There was no websites. You weren't going to Amazon or Google or anything like that. And so with that sort of metaphor out of the way, yesterday, if somehow, so Thursday, because this will probably post, I'll be nice and post this maybe Sunday. Thursday afternoon, Keith Parsons posted the survey for WLPC 2023 Phoenix online, and this is one of the things that makes this conference so phenomenal. It's user driven, right? It's attendee driven. If you want to see something, you submit to the topic, right? You want to bring a topic to the stage, you submit it. If you think you've got a great idea for a deep dive or a boot camp, you submit it. And ultimately, if it's good, or if enough people think it's going to be interesting, then it'll get the votes and it'll happen. And if it's really good, as some of them tend to be, it'll come back year after year. And so we're at that time of the year where we get to vote. We get to decide what you want to hear presented, who you want to hear presenting, and what you want to learn at that conference. So it's a pretty cool time. And that's going to be the main focus of our chit chat. But I wanted to get a couple things out of the way up front. One, a reminder, again, this is a labor of love. If there's something that you want to see me provide, content or how it gets delivered, please let me know. Wi-Fi Wrestling at Twitter. I know a couple folks, I think some of our European listeners, had noted that it wasn't working on or wasn't showing up on certain podcast sites. I apologize for that. It seems like I think Spotify, there was some authorization or validation step that had failed the first time around that I needed to fix. I think because I had changed the feed link or something like that. So that should be fixed now. And I added a couple others that seemed to be popular, but that hadn't gotten in by default. So that should all be corrected. But if it's not, let me know. If there's anything else in that realm that you need to see or want to see, let me know. I'm not perfect. I am a one-man show. So I do what I can, but I'm also an Apple guy, so I knew it worked on Apple, and I kind of just, I didn't have the chance to check anything else. So I appreciate people calling me out on that, and we will definitely keep fixing it moving forward. And then also I apologize, there was an audio issue on episodes 3 and 4, because the default in GarageBand, for whatever reason, is to put the metronome in it. And I'm not a musician, so I couldn't tell you why, and I'm not a GarageBand nerd, so I couldn't tell you why. But episodes 1 and 2, I guess I did a little bit slower and made sure to turn that off. Episodes 3 and 4, I kind of figured I'd gotten into a rhythm and was just ripping it and going with it, and that's what happens when you rush. So I had the sound issues are fixed. I edited and recompressed and uploaded. 3 and 4 should be clean. So if you stopped listening because it's annoying, it should be gone. If you didn't listen, you probably won't even notice, hopefully. So sure, with that out of the way, again, Thursday of this week, October 20th, was a really big day for the community. Not huge. I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but the survey is out. And I think Keith summarized it on Twitter. There's something like 100 presentations. I believe it was something about 20 or more deep dives and about a similar number of boot camps that are out there for us to vote on. So it's pretty cool. I'm not going to go through all of them, in part because I've got the survey open on my iPad in front of me, and I'm not going to vote for all 20 now, just because it takes a little bit of time, and it would be a really, really long show, and I just don't want to make an hour-long recording of stepping through all of the different descriptions. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not influencing anybody's decision. It's yours to make. But I think it's cool. There are some really good ones. We've got some of the usual names out there. You've got Eddie Ferrero. You've got Chris Avance has a couple options. Jim Palmer has put a few out there, which I think are all different than the one he did in Phoenix last year. One of them I think is a carryover from Prague, which I had the privilege of listening to him present a couple times as he warmed up for it, and that was a really good one. You've got Bob Friday. You've got Wes Purvis, Phil Morgan, a few others that have been up there before, and usually do a really good talk. And then there's the encouraging thing is there are quite a few names that I know, but I haven't remembered seeing them on the stage, or I don't necessarily recall seeing them on the stage. So maybe they're new, maybe they're just first time in a while. But seeing the newer ones up there is neat. There's a lot of, obviously, I think a lot of CBRS, cellular, crossover, Wi-Fi 7 type talks that are coming up, obviously, and 6E2. Those are all kind of the hot topics. And some soft skill stuff, which I would argue that's near and dear to me, because I have a couple up there that are definitely less Wi-Fi 802.11 and much more being a soft skills kind of a talk. As I mentioned in the podcast that will probably wind up airing after this one, there is a reason for that. It's just something that's, I think, much more in my comfort zone. And when I've never been up on stage, so as a sort of a little aside, I've never been up on the stage to talk. I've been up for a picture or two last year, but I've never been on the stage. I've submitted the last couple of years. I've never made the stage. It is what it is. Again, it's a community vote. I'm not going to go sitting out there begging for votes. If somebody thinks they want to hear John Deegan talk, they can hear John Deegan talk. And yes, after 6 episodes, I finally actually said my name on the podcast. But if you want to hear me talk, vote for me. If you think the topic is interesting and you can tolerate me for 10 minutes, hopefully that's all it gets, vote for me. If you have no desire to hear me or the topic, then don't. You get 20 votes for a talk. You get 3 for each of the deep dives and the boot camps if you're going to go to a boot camp. And the cool thing for me this year, as a personal milestone of sorts, is I have a submission in for all 3 categories. I have actually, I think 3 in for the talks. 2 for soft skills related stuff, and 1 more technical that was sort of a work-driven idea that could be fun, could be an interesting topic, and we'll see. And before I jump into the other sort of highlights that I saw, I mentioned I have a deep dive. It's a Build a Home Lab deep dive. Jim Palmer actually and I kind of cooked this one up. I won't take most of the credit for it. It's one of those things where I put my lab together and was kind of giving him encouragement to get a better lab set up for himself as well. And as we were kind of doing it and getting him on the virtualized side of things with a Nook, it kind of all clicked, and he was like, hey, this would make a really cool deep dive. And so that's where we went with it. That's how it came to be. So it should be really fun, I think. I hope, looking at the other deep dives, I think it's got a lot to offer if you don't have a home lab or want to improve your home lab, and it's got a decent kit that comes with it, assuming we can get everything purchased for the budget that we've been allotted. But that's that. And then I mentioned before, I think, and if not, I'm mentioning it now. Ruckus will have a boot camp, hopefully. RCWA, which is the Ruckus Certified Wireless um, Associate. I always forget what the A stands for. I will be teaching in Phoenix, hopefully. And if you're a Ruckus person, meaning, if you're a partner, if you're a customer, if you're somebody who works on Ruckus or wants to learn Ruckus, this will be a really cool course, I think, to get some hands on the Ruckus ecosystem. So, yeah, that's my piece on my stuff. Feel free to vote for me if you want to. Feel free to not vote for me. I won't be upset if you don't. But, yeah, so there's some really cool tools. I mean, I think there's always a few that are sort of staples every year. I don't think Eddie's doing... I don't think he submitted a Wireshark one, which is a shame because that should just be on repeat. But some nice names up there. I saw Lariana, who was the first Wi-Fi Awards Rookie of the Year. Went up against her and had no chance. She's got a couple talks submitted, which could be really cool. She's actually really smart and really I would say she's under the radar in the Wi-Fi community, but she's really nice. If you get a chance to say hi to her, please do. She's awesome. I see Muhammad Ali's got a couple. Jake, I think, had a couple. Just kind of skimming through the talks. Raymond Hendricks has one or two. Jerry with the always popular WLNPI project, which I'm sure we'll see on stage. A couple from that guy, John. There's, like I said, there's a couple new names, though. I mean, there's some other ones you'll know. Stephen Cooper is a big one. Nick Turner. Manon. With an interesting topic, moving on after 20 years at Campus Adventure, which could be interesting. I think it's a higher ed. I think she was on a college campus, so that could be an interesting one. I'll plug another Ruckus one. Matt Hall has a really interesting one, the New Zealand School District. I think he actually has a deep dive, too. This project is really cool, and it saved my bacon over the summer because I had to flash like 100 switches from one code version to a different code version and push a customer config on it. And, I had to go to a warehouse, and it was basically I was faced with touching 100 switches. And until I talked to Jim Palmer, I hadn't known about this. And it's a pretty neat one. I won't steal too much of his thunder, but basically how it amounts to how a Raspberry Pi and Matt's project saved my bacon over the summer and kept me down to just a couple days in a warehouse as opposed to, it could have been like a week or two to unbox and flash them all. So that was pretty cool. And I think it'll be fun. Again, I'm seeing a lot of Wi-Fi 6E, a couple Wi-Fi 7, some interesting ones. And I'm sorry if I'm umming a lot because I'm just scrolling and reading and thinking about it. But yeah, there do appear to be quite a few newer names, nicer topics that haven't been touched on a whole lot, I don't think. So that should be really cool. And again, at the end of the day, right, there's, the survey goes out to everybody who has attended, who has expressed an interest in attending. I think I've heard something in the range of you can get several hundred. I mean, you figure the conference is going to have 300 people if every spot sells out, and it usually does. And I think Keith typically gets more votes than attendees, and I don't think that's people stuffing the ballot boxes to make sure their talk happens. I think that's a case of people voting because even if they don't go, they know they want to see that video. And so just in case you didn't know, if this is something that you've never done before, the main talks, all of that ones you get to vote 20 times on, they're all recorded, and the videos are eventually uploaded. So just to give you an idea, Prague happened 2 weeks ago, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe it was actually last week. I'm not looking on my calendar. Sorry, I'm just not. But the videos are actually going live today on the 21st. So actually, yeah, I think Prague was last week. That makes sense. So like a week later, they've got 40-ish talks. The videos edited, cleaned up, ready to go, and they're posting it to YouTube on the WLAN Pros channel. So take a look and check them out. But that's the neat thing, right? If there's a talk that's happening and you can't make it, you'll get to see it and you'll get to watch it. And trust me, if you're there and you get to see it, there are plenty of talks that happen that are so dense. Technically, there's a lot to consume. And maybe you had something come up with work and you couldn't hear it all, or you just need to re-listen to it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people in work relative to an RF problem or a Wi-Fi solution refer to a video from WLAN Pros conferences in the past, re-listen to it because they're like, I know I heard this explained better. Let me go listen to that video. I've looked at Eddie's Wireshark video from, I think it was 2019 several times. It was hilarious because I think he was given like a 30-minute slot and he wound up going like the full, I think he went over by like 20 minutes or something like that. Don't hate me if I'm wrong, Eddie, but nobody, I think, in the room minded him going over because it was so well done. But it's cool to know that like that part of the conference is recorded, and you can always get that on YouTube. So skipping over to the deep dives, if you again haven't gone, the deep dives are cool because basically you get an afternoon breakout session on Tuesday and Wednesday where you pick a deep dive, you sit with an instructor who again. All right, and we are back. Sorry about that little technical difficulty. This is the joy of happening. I record on a PodTrack, a Zoom PodTrack device, which is a wonderful device, but it's battery powered when I want it to be, and it is when I'm in the car primarily. And I had 2 bars when I started. It quickly went to 1, and I figured, all right, well, it went like 3 recordings on 2 bars, so I should be good for a little bit, and it died right as I started to talk about the deep dive. So anyways, a little bit of a segue, but anyways, so back to the deep dives, right? So Monday you register, Tuesday is the conference fully starts, Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon you get a deep dive. And it is a volunteer instructor-led course, not necessarily a course, but it's hands-on. It could be a class, it could be a technical demo, it could be, there's a lot of different things, right? I mean, I think Dan Jones has a Rubik's Cube session on there. I have no idea what that is, if it actually legitimately is a Rubik's Cube or if it's just something that he wants to see how many people sign up for it because he's got something really cool planned. There's the WLAN Pi usually runs something. They're on the list again. Like I said, I have a lab one. Jim Palmer has his antenna deep dive, which, as I mentioned in the very beginning of the show, or not at the very beginning, but at some point, a lot of these deep dives are new. There's at least a handful of them that are sort of regulars. Because you get some of those that are so well done and so educational, entertaining that people are like, I heard about it, I heard it was great, I want to do that. And so the instructors and the deep dives are basically almost staples, right? For lack of a better word. I think Jim's given this one now. Assuming he gets enough interest for Phoenix, I think it'll be his 3rd or 4th year of doing it. He did it in Prague as well. So if I'm counting WLPCs, I really don't know, but it's been to a few. Rob Boardman has his 3D printing one, which will be nice. Rob is actually going to be making a long commute from, I think he's in Finland now, with his, I know they're engaged. They might have gotten married, actually. I think they did get married. But so he'll be coming in for that. It said his final one, so I wonder if that means he's not going to be doing it anymore, if he's not doing it in Phoenix, or if he's just trying to see if anybody else is paying attention. But, there's a lot of other ones. I mean, Phil Morgan has a hacking deep dive. I took that one a few years ago. I had an interest in hacking, and he had some cool kit that came with it. We got a Chromebook. So that's the other thing. You want to find something that you're interested in. Maybe it works for you for work. Maybe it's something personally interesting. Some people do pick it because you get the cool swag. I mean, last year I think everybody that took the WLAN Pi deep dive was pretty happy because they got the brand new WLAN Pi, which was in high demand. So that was pretty cool. I think there's a Python one. There's some IoT ones out there, some LoRaWAN ones that look pretty cool. It's actually kind of it's funny for me because I hope that my lab deep dive gets picked because it would be pretty cool to present. And I think it's a pretty good use of 6 hours. You get basically 3 hours each day. But it's sort of a bummer because there are some really cool deep dives this year that would be nice to take if I wasn't already looking to be an instructor. And then you've got the boot camps, which are the last thing you vote for if you're actually going to be there or planning to go or trying to go. So they're only relevant if you're planning on being there Saturday and Sunday as well, and all of Monday. And there are your usual suspects. You've got all the CWNP offerings. You've got some Cisco courses from Chris Advanced and Wi-Fi Training. I can't remember if I saw a 3D printing one. I think there was a Wi-Fi 7 masterclass, which I'm not sure how that'll go. I've got questions about that just because Wi-Fi 7 still hasn't been ratified yet, and there's still a lot we're figuring out what's going to actually fly and not. So I'm not sure how to make that into a 3-day course just yet. Plus, I've got questions about that one, but we'll see. There's the Ruckus Boot Camp. I think Mist has one. There were a couple others I'm probably forgetting. I think there were 18 boot camps in total. So plenty of options. And like I said, it's a great time to be a Wi-Fi professional. Now is, if you haven't already lined up, like if you aren't self-employed or don't have an awesome employment agreement that guarantees you're going to go, now is the time for you to start talking to your people, your leadership, your boss's boss, the finance person, whomever, to make sure they are aware of this and it's something you want to go to and see if you can get clearance. I mentioned that for a couple of reasons. One, I've worked at several jobs where it was not easy to get to training. So it wasn't like, hey, can I go? And it was like, yep, go ahead and just throw it on the Amex and you're good. You're going to have to get approvals and things like that. And I know on the WLAN Pros Conference website, Keith has like an approval letter or a justification letter to basically hand to your bosses and say, this is why it's going. It's sort of a misnomer. We've talked about this before among the community. It's called the WLAN Pros Conference. It's almost doing it in a misdeed, if you will. It is a conference, but it's more of like a 3-day deep dive seminar kind of thing. Some conferences have a bad, almost a bad connotation. People look at it as like it's a big party and a trade show and not a lot happens and it's just a lot of people with an excuse to not work. That couldn't be further from the truth with WLAN Pros. Do we have a great time? Yes. The community is great. People come together. We'll go out to grab dinner, drinks, stay up till all hours of the morning. But it's almost all of it's talking Wi-Fi, which is the really cool thing. From the time you get up to the time you're crashing for the night, you're with a wireless person, you're talking shop, you're learning so much, you're doing so many things with networking and making new connections, and it's just so invaluable. I can't tell you how many connections I've made at that conference because I went to that conference, and they've really been helpful to me. So it's almost a shame to call it a conference. I've been to some conferences that are trade shows that are basically a lot of just, what has the negative connotation of a party atmosphere. And I've been to this and it's not that at all. Is it fun? Yes. Do I have a lot of friends that I'm looking forward to seeing again? Absolutely. But that's not the driving force for why I went the first time, nor is it now. It's a very good week to learn, to polish your skills. Iron sharpens iron, and this is a great place to do that. So, but you gotta talk to the boss. You gotta get clearance, and the other part of it too is something to consider if you need a sort of a hook in there, right? Travel budgets, maybe because pandemic travel has been a little bit less. Maybe there's a little bit left in 2021, or 2022 rather. Wow, see, I can't even tell my time anymore. Maybe there's some money left in your budget this year, 2022, that can be spent on the training and the travel that is gone when the calendar flips from December 31st to January 1st, 2023. And I'm sure Keith, because I've done this before, is happy to, bill you, invoice you in 2022 so that it can be paid out with 2022 funds. So that's something else to consider because I know a lot of companies at the end of the year, they look to make sure that they spend up to their budgeted amount so that they can maintain that budget. And that's a whole different topic, and I'm not going to get into that because I'm not a finance guy. But it's something to consider. It may help you make your case to get the course or the conference in, and the fact that there is definitely training. If you need a CWNP cert, if you're chasing CWNA, if you're looking to start your journey, there's Devin's wireless class, and there's some Eka House stuff. There's a lot of training in that boot camp session. That Monday, you check in Friday, you're there Saturday, Sunday, and Monday learning. You are giving up a weekend, but it's worth it. So yeah, it's an exciting time. The survey will be open for about a month. I think it closes, I want to say like November 15th ish, give or take. And I don't have the dates in front of me, and I apologize. I'm not going to, because I'm literally sitting in my car doing this, but, vote, pick which ones you really want to see, even if you're not going to be able to make it to Phoenix. And then, we'll see what makes the list. We'll know, shortly thereafter. The votes are tallied. I'm sure it's a Survey Monkey thing, so I'm sure they've got the running totals now. But shortly after the vote closes, I believe Keith will kind of make it public what what choices made the cut, and then ultimately, the people who put in for presentations are going to know in a month if they're actually going to get a shot to talk on the main stage, which is going to be pretty cool. Me personally, 2 of my 3 are kind of already done, so I'm not too crazy about that. I don't have a lot. I mean, I'll have slide decks to prep and all that, but the third one, if that one is the one that makes it, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on that, which is cool. But you'll know probably right before American Thanksgiving that you'll be talking or not. And then ultimately the deep dives and the boot camps are going to be, you'll see which ones make it to the registration page, and then ultimately registration, the number of head count that registers for a particular session is going to dictate which runs and which don't. But and I couldn't tell you from experience if any deep dives or boot camps have ever made it to the registration but not actually run at the conference. But so yeah, it's a cool time. It's a community-driven event for the community, by the community. People will say it constantly there and have for years. I'm not the first. I won't be the last. But Keith and his team put on a great show, and it's time to get ready for another one. So on that note, it's a Friday for me here, and I'm going to say have a great weekend, or hope you had a great weekend, because like I said, I'm probably going to post this one on Sunday night and throw my order off a little bit. But enjoy. Thank you for listening, and this match is over.